My hemoglobin A1C keeps going up and I don't even eat that much sugar. What's going on? A friend of mine asked me recently, which reveals something important that many people miss. High blood sugars are not just about eating sugar, but the fix is simpler than you think. In this video, let's go over 20 science-based ways to lower your hemoglobin A1C. I'm going to divide them into quick wins and longevity wins. Quick wins are for you to lower your blood sugar in that meal, and longevity wins are things that you can do that will continue to lower your blood sugars in subsequent meals. Now, these are all small daily habits, which collectively together will have a much more profound and longer lasting impact on your HbA1c and your metabolic health than trying to diet. By the way, my name is Dr. Liu. I've been practicing both infectious diseases and internal medicine for 27 years. From my experience, diets are really hard to change. Some of these tips you may already know, but haven't done because you didn't realize their importance. Now, each of these habits have small benefits, but by themselves, you'll be surprised that together you can actually improve your blood sugar control and see this result within 24 hours. Now, that's why if you're on medications to control your blood sugar, make sure you talk to your own medical provider first before you make any dietary changes. Sudden low blood sugars actually are very dangerous. But before we jump into this list, let's start with something super important, understanding what exactly is an HbA1c. What does it actually measure? Because without a thorough understanding, you can get into the trap of normalizing your HbA1c, but get progressively more resistant, even with lower insulin levels. So what is HbA1c? Now, I've mentioned hemoglobin A1c. That's what HbA1c stands for. Hemoglobin is a protein inside your red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout your entire body. And in case you didn't know, your red blood cells, they actually don't have any mitochondria. This limits the amount of blood sugars that it can use for its own energy, which is a good thing, so that it can supply you with oxygen to the rest of your body. So when your glucose circulates in the bloodstream, it can freely diffuse into the cell of red blood cells, and some of that sticks to hemoglobin molecules. This process is called glycation. It's a form of caramelization. If your blood sugars remain high, then the newer, younger blood cells will also get glycosylated or caramelized. Now, here's the key. Red blood cells, they live about 3 months. So when your doctor measures your HbA1c, they're essentially measuring how much glucose has been attaching to your red blood cells over the last 8 to 12 weeks. That means HbA1c gives us kind of a long-term picture of blood sugar control. So if your glucose spikes up and goes down only when you eat, then most likely you are unlikely to have high numbers of HbA1c unless you are eating all day long. The problem is going up and staying elevated for prolonged periods. And that's what causes HbA1c to rise. And many people without diabetes have continuous glucose monitors, so they can watch their sugar spikes. But when they go get their hemoglobin A1c checked, it's still normal. Because what your body sees most of the time dictates how high your HbA1c will be. If glucose is controlled most of the time, your HbA1c will be normal. So lowering your HbA1c is really about improving how your body handles glucose throughout the day, even when you're not eating. And that's where these 20 strategies will come into play. So first, let's focus on the quick wins. Number 1, add vinegar to your food. Vinegar has acetic acid, the main active compound in vinegar. And this has several interesting effects on your glucose metabolism. Number 1, it slows down digestion of carbohydrates. Number 2, it can boost your metabolism. So you can add 1 to 2 tablespoons to your salad. You can use it as a dip when you're eating bread, and it can actually reduce your post-meal glucose levels by roughly 20 to 30%, particularly in people with insulin resistance or prediabetes. So here's how it works. Vinegar activates AMP-activated protein kinase, AMPK, which is often described as the cell's energy sensor. AMPK is an enzyme found in many tissues, especially your muscles, your liver, and your fat cells. It becomes activated when the cell senses the low energy state, specifically when the ratio of AMP to ATP increases. When AMP kinase turns on, the body shifts towards a process that will generate energy, especially in skeletal muscles, which is your glucose sink. Now, AMP kinase activation stimulates the movement of GLUT4 glucose transporters to the cell surface. And GLUT4 is a transporter responsible for pulling glucose in from the bloodstream. This mechanism is similar to what happens during exercise. And as a result, muscles absorb more glucose. This lowers your blood glucose levels. Acetic acid may also promote glycogen replenishment in your muscle tissue. And that means glucose is more likely to be stored rather than just remaining in circulation and glycosylating or caramelizing other tissue. Another important effect occurs in your liver. AMK suppresses hepatic glucose production. And normally the liver produces glucose through two processes. Number one is gluconeogenesis, and number two is glycogenolysis. AMK reduces the activity of enzymes involved in gluconeogenesis, meaning the liver releases less glucose into the bloodstream. And this is an important reason why people have a high fasting blood sugar even though they're not eating. Your liver is making that glucose. Acetic acid also slows the digestion of carbohydrates by inhibiting enzymes such as alpha amylase and sucrase, which breaks starch into sugar, which then converts into glucose. And this all increases your hemoglobin A1C level. So this means carbohydrates that are digested more slowly, it leads to a smaller post-meal glucose spike. Another mechanism involves gastric emptying. Acetic acid can slow how quickly your food leaves the stomach, and the absorption happens after the food leaves the stomach. So when food moves more slowly into the small intestine, glucose can enter the bloodstream more gradually, which further blunts the glucose rise after meals. And number two is to drink water before your meals. Drinking water before meals is another quick win for blood sugar control. Sometimes thirst is mistaken for hunger. Hydration helps your kidneys regulate your blood sugar levels. And most people also are simply not drinking enough water throughout the day, and you need to be well hydrated to optimize your glucose metabolism. Water also promotes satiety, which reduces overeating. Drinking water before meals can help regulate your appetite. So drink 1 to 2 glasses before you start eating, and make sure you're not drinking water with sugar. And check your fruit-flavored beverages or juices that they don't have added sugar. And don't drink diet beverages or beverages with sugar substitutes. That also can sabotage your hemoglobin A1C numbers, and I'll tell you why later. Number 3, chew your food slowly. I'm sure your mom has told you to slow down, and there's good reason. First of all, digestion starts in your mouth. Chewing produces saliva and digestive enzymes that can help you absorb more nutrients. And sometimes you're having cravings because you're lacking specific micronutrients. But more importantly, the act of chewing activates satiety hormones to signal you to feel full faster. Eating slowly slows down the amount of starch and fat and sugar that enters into your bloodstream. So how many times should you chew? Well, studies show between 25 to 40 times per bite. People who chew less than 15 bites, that action inhibits release of beneficial hormones like GLP-1, peptide YY, and cholecystokinin that's supposed to signal to your brain that you're getting full, that you're getting enough food. And this signal takes about 15 to 20 minutes to be released. So by eating slower, you naturally reduce the amount of food that you eat by promoting more of that signaling to come on. Chewing also reduces the hunger hormone ghrelin that makes you seek more food. You can try chewing longer and putting your fork down in between bites. Or if it's just simply too difficult, take smaller bites. Do a Mr. K McDonald's bite.
That's a big bite for a big arch.
Yep, that's a small bite. That's not a big bite, Mr. K. Number 4, eat carbohydrates last. The order in which you eat your food matters significantly. If you eat your vegetables and protein first, carbohydrates are absorbed more slowly. Food ordered alone can significantly reduce glucose spikes. Now, this simple strategy can improve blood sugars without changing anything in the meal itself. And number 5, move 2 minutes after your meals. Now, movement after your meals can dramatically reduce blood sugar spikes throughout that whole entire digestion process for your meal. When your muscles contract, they absorb glucose directly from the bloodstream. And this process does not require much insulin. So even 2 minutes, preferably longer, like 10 minutes, of walking after your meals can significantly lower post-meal glucose throughout your entire meal. A good type of movement is simply walking. That's because when you walk, you're moving really big muscle groups. And even if you just can't walk, lifting your legs repetitively over and over for a couple of minutes can also help you lower your blood sugars because you're moving big big muscle groups. This is also super helpful when you're stuck in bed, whether you're laying in the hospital or at home. Now, these 5 quick wins are something you can do today that doesn't radically involve changing your diet. The next 15 tips are longevity wins. And if you want to win the longevity game, then these are important to pay attention to. Lowering HbA1c is just one part of the story. Optimal health is when you can both lower HbA1c and insulin resistance. Now, just because your HbA1c is low and your insulin is low does not mean that you don't have insulin resistance. So let me give you a couple examples. If you go on a ketogenic diet and remove all carbohydrates, it is well documented that the first time you take a bite of carbohydrates, you will have a dramatic blood sugar surge and your insulin will skyrocket. And this is a symptom of insulin resistance. Now, whereas a person with type 1 diabetes can eat the same load of carbohydrates and require less insulin and see a lower blood sugar spike. And what's the difference? The key is that your body gets more insulin sensitive. And when you're more insulin sensitive, you reduce the amount of insulin that you need to metabolize that finite amount of carbohydrates. And then only a carbohydrate challenge will prove whether or not you're insulin sensitive. And this has been proven a long time ago when they took medical students, fed them 3 different kinds of diets, 1 pure fat, 1 pure carbohydrate, and 1 pure protein. And the students who ate a pure carbohydrate diet without the fat or protein, they actually needed less insulin and had lower blood sugar spikes for the same amount of carbohydrates. Now, the reason why this is important is because both high sugar and high insulin is inflammatory. So whenever I meet people who are about to lose their limb, a kidney, and they have diabetes, I always check what their hemoglobin A1C number is, and I always ask how much insulin has been going up. A normal hemoglobin A1C number means that that person has been well controlled in their blood sugar levels, but they may have been using insulin to get that blood sugar under control. Insulin in excess is an inflammatory hormone. It accelerates arterial inflammation and chokes blood flow. Hence, simply chasing a good number, like an HbA1c or just a fasting blood sugar, that doesn't mean a whole lot when you don't know what's happening to the insulin. And by cutting out all carbohydrates, you may lower your insulin, you may lower your HbA1c, but you may also be getting more insulin resistant unless you pay attention to your carbohydrate challenge. Now, when you reduce all carbohydrates, you're also reducing important vital nutrients that come along with those carbohydrates. A couple of beneficial carbohydrates are fiber and resistant starch. And when you reduce your foods that have fiber and resistant starch, then you're not actually helping your gut microbiome. And that's why my first longevity win to lower HbA1c is simply to reduce refined carbohydrates and added sugar. Refined carbohydrates are food where the fiber has been removed. Examples include white bread, pastries, sweetened beverages, pizza, hamburgers, hot dogs, many packaged snacks, cereals. Many of them don't have any fiber. And these carbohydrates are so refined, so manipulated that they go into your bloodstream and absorb very quickly. That rapid absorption causes a sharp spike in your blood glucose, which then makes your pancreas release a large amount of insulin to then push your glucose into your cells. But over time, these repeated spikes, they lead to insulin resistance, where cells stop responding effectively to the insulin. Now, if this is your meal throughout the day, every time you're eating breakfast, you're drinking your coffee latte, or eating a candy bar, you're continuously spiking your blood sugars. But by reducing refined carbohydrates and added sugar, this quickly reduces the amount of times that your blood sugar is spiking, which will reduce the overall time your blood sugar remains high, which means that you can lower your HbA1c levels. And I understand this requires a taste palate change. So instead of buying white bread, buy whole grain bread. It'll give you the texture and the taste, but it comes with some nutrients, some fiber, some micronutrients. Now, added sugar is harder to get away from. Many people think added sugar is just in sweet drinks and desserts, but it's actually hidden in so many items, from your breads to your sauces, and even healthy sweet foods such as yogurt and flavored nuts. Please check your ingredients, because when your body senses the added sugar, even if you don't taste that it's sweet, you not only release insulin, but you also release dopamine. Dopamine is a signal that keeps you hooked to that taste and texture and gives you the drive to go seek that food. So when you can dampen that dopamine reward drive, then you will be more successful at longevity goals of getting off those foods and more easily pick healthier foods without the internal conflict of letting go of what's so tasty, ultra processed foods. Now, I personally know that this is hard. It was hard for me to do. It's hard for everybody to do. My Pilates instructor, probably the fittest person I know, she usually avoids junky carbohydrates, but she took a 3-day weekend off and she just fell off the wagon. First, she got herself a bag of honey mustard potato chips and she ate that whole giant bag. Usually she at least walks or works out every day, but that weekend she decided to take a break. She didn't do anything. She didn't even walk. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, then she ordered herself a pizza and just about ate the entire pizza until she called her son to come home and eat the rest. And on top of that, she bought herself 5 bags of popcorn to binge eat while she binge watched TV. And then she was craving for something sweet, so she bought herself oatmeal cookies and she ate the whole box, all 8 of them. So after 3 days, she got on the scale, she gained 4 pounds. And the thing is, it's not all fat. She actually is retaining water and she could even see it in her legs.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
So number 7, if you don't want to retain water, then reduce sodium. High sodium intake is often associated with highly processed foods, binge-worthy foods, right? These foods frequently contain refined carbohydrates, unhealthy fats, added sugar, and of course, lots of salt. Now, these companies, they make these foods for a reason, and that's because they know they can get you to eat more of them. Now, we have scientific evidence that people actually do exactly that, eat more food when they're eating junk. So after you binge, you not only gain weight from the calories, but you also start retaining more sodium, and that raises your blood pressure. It impairs how your cells respond to insulin, and it contributes to a rising hemoglobin A1C number. Excess sodium interferes with the insulin signaling pathways inside your muscle and fat cells. And when insulin signaling becomes weaker, well, the body simply releases more insulin to move glucose into cells, which gradually worsens insulin resistance. And over time, this contributes to higher fasting glucose and higher HbA1c levels. So reducing your sodium, it usually means you are eating less food, especially processed food. And that change alone will improve your metabolic health, improve your blood sugars, because they don't exactly put quality ingredients in junk food. And remember, junk food lacks fiber. That's why it's important to do number 9, increase dietary fiber. Fiber is one of the most powerful nutrients. It's a carbohydrate, yet it controls your blood sugars. Now, when carbohydrates are eaten with fiber, digestion slows down. Glucose enters the bloodstream more gradually instead of all at once. Fiber also feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Now, these bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that then improves your insulin sensitivity and reduces inflammation. And people who consume at least 30 to 40 grams of fiber daily, they simply have better glucose control. In addition, fiber activates satiety hormones like GLP-1. And people who normally eat more dietary fiber, they generally don't have a weight problem. They don't need GLP-1 because fiber shuts off their wanting to eat. It's a turn-off switch. Have you ever been so full that you just can't eat another bite? Simply the thought of food will make you feel sick. And that is when you know you're not hungry. That's actually normal when we overeat. That's the off switch of eating, which apparently doesn't work for many people because they're still overeating. And that is why it's necessary to eat your fiber for weight control. That is why people are getting successful in weight control without GLP-1 agonists. But the problem is all the side effects you naturally get for a GLP-1 agonist, right? That's why we want to do things naturally and not depend on medicines. But if you don't want to change your palate and change your body or train your body when it comes to food, then a GLP-1 agonist may be the right answer for you. But I think even more important than that, and that's unique, is the fiber. It helps reduce HbA1c numbers. And these are polyphenols, which are super hard to get. So number 20, increase your polyphenols. They're plant compounds that regulate metabolism, decrease inflammation, and inhibit pathological microbes. But since this is about reducing HbA1c, let's focus on that and how it can reduce your blood sugars. It can slow down your digestive enzymes. And the benefits of slowing down your digestive enzymes is to increase the time in which it takes to digest your food. Therefore, you decrease the rate at which your blood sees sugar. When this happens in your stomach, you'll get reflux because it may stay there too long and you may reflux it up your food pipe. But in your gut, polyphenols improve insulin signaling and reduces inflammation. They also help protect cells from oxidative stress caused by high glucose levels. Increasing polyphenol can help the body use glucose more efficiently. And that's why it's so important to find colorful, all-natural plants to eat. When you see dark, rigid colors, you know that those plants have polyphenols. Blueberries, strawberries, acai berries, black raspberries, and cherries are some of my favorites to eat. But I don't want you to leave with the impression that's only found in fruit. Leaves have polyphenols, so when you drink green tea, cacao, or coffee, there is also beneficial polyphenols. And if you have ever cooked with any of these spices, you know how spices can be brilliant in flavor and in color, but some may taste bitter. And that's how you know there's polyphenols. So let me give you an example of how that works to reduce your blood sugars. Let's say you're gonna eat a blueberry shake before your meal. Did you know that blueberries have some of the highest amount of polyphenols and fibers that you can eat to both reduce your blood sugar levels and promote satiety so that you don't overeat that meal? This is a great reason to add a blueberry shake before your meals. And if you drink that shake, you will simply eat less food. So when you eat, let's say spices, you can also lose weight too. Black cumin is one of those beneficial biblical spices that can help you control your weight. But who eats black cumin by itself? It's pretty bitter, right? And that's why, number 11, learn to eat beans. We can add spices to beans and make them delicious chili or salad. Beans are one of the most powerful metabolic foods for your health. They contain a combination of resistant starch, soluble fiber, plant protein, and polyphenols, especially when you go for those colorful beans and eat the skin intact. But a combination of everything that I mentioned will slow your digestion, reduces rapid sugar spikes, and feeds healthy gut microbes slowly. But I know sugar is hard to get away from. People eat a lot of sugar, ultra-processed, refined flours. The thing is, we are what we eat. Maybe you get to change that. So when you eat a lot of refined flours, your microbes efficiently digest that starch in your sugar. And this isn't good for anybody's metabolism because it adds to your sugar surges in your blood. But another carbohydrate, such as beans, they by themselves have a low glycemic index, which means they raise blood sugar slowly. But they do it in a very special way. They do it by lowering your blood sugar, not just in the meal you're eating the beans, but it keeps lowering your blood sugar in subsequent meals. And this is definitely one of those longevity wins. So regular consumption of beans has been shown in multiple studies to lower HbA1c in people with or without diabetes. Beans promote satiety. Now, I don't know about you, but after I'm eating beans, I'm pretty full. But not everybody can tolerate beans, but it requires a little gut training. Or you can get the help of digested enzymes like Beano that you can find over the counter. It is, however, beneficial for you to train your gut. So start literally with 1 bean a day and then add another bean for another day. Work up to 1.5 cups of beans over several days to several weeks and eat those beans with other foods so that your gut microbes have other foods to feast on, not just those beans. Number 12, learn to eat whole fruit. Many people avoid fruit if they have diabetes because they think it raises your blood sugars. But whole fruit behaves very differently from refined sugar and flour because the nutrients in the fruit, including the potassium and the sugar, is trapped within a fiber matrix, water, and polyphenols that actually reduces calories. Now, have you ever peeled back an orange and felt how tough that was to break? That's the power of fiber. Have you ever bitten into an apple during class and then everyone turns around to listen to you chew? That was me. But I still had to do it because I had to stay awake in class. The hard stuff on the apple and the orange, that is fiber. That's what makes an apple crunchy and an orange difficult to peel. Now, when you squeeze orange juice, the dried stuff left is also fiber. That orange was meant to be eaten with that fiber so that you don't surge your blood sugars, which is what orange juice does. Now, fiber will slow down your glucose absorption. It is so powerful that everyone is surprised when their diabetes numbers, HbA1c numbers keeps improving even though they're eating fruit, right? It lowers your risk of diabetes if you don't already have it. The key difference between whole fruit and fruit juice is the fiber. Juicing removes all the fiber and concentrates the sugar. It is definitely way better than flavored beverages because juice still contains lots of beneficial antioxidants, a little bit of fiber, vitamins, minerals, as well as special phytonutrients that flavored beverages just simply don't have. So a good way to wean yourself off of flavored sugary drinks is with fruit juice that's diluted in sparkling water. And better yet, put whole fruit in that sparkling water because that'll give you a nice buzz to eat. You can save yourself a lot of money from buying those soda machines. You can do the same with just sparkling water. Fruit is just way too tasty for me to mess with. Number 13, start your meals with low-calorie foods. Believe it or not, even though fruit is filling And many fruits are full of sugar and taste sweet. They're also very low in calories. There are some fruits that are not as sweet and also high in calories, like coconut. But squashes, like spaghetti squash, that is a fruit. That's not that sweet. Cucumbers, full of water, has a hint of sweetness. Low calorie, that's a fruit. So is a tomato. But many fruits that are sweeter are still lower in calories compared to their weight, like a bowl of blueberries, strawberries, pears, and apples. These are heavy because of water weight. They are all still low-calorie foods. So unless you add sugar and fats and oils to the fruit, it's going to be low calorie. That, my friends, sounds like a cookie or pie. A typical cookie may be lighter than an apple, yet it has more calories and is more calorically dense per gram of food, since it's essentially no water and is full of fat and refined sugar, as well as starches. But when you eat fruit, actually you're chewing on mostly water. And if you've ever left a fruit shrivel dry, I'm sure you'd be surprised at how light it feels. It takes a lot of water to make that fruit crunchy. And I can't stand a dehydrated, soft watermelon. It just lacks crunch. That's when you're eating fruit, you're drinking water to help you control your weight. Water is helpful with or without being in a fiber matrix for weight control. So can you think of another food that is high in water? How about soup? So instead of eating fruit and drinking water, you can always begin your meals with a light vegetable soup that is low in salt. And that could be a longevity habit. But avoid those canned soups. They're not low in salt. And they also have a lot of microplastics, which is a great topic for another video. Another great way to front load your meals is by eating vegetables. Most vegetables are pretty low in calories. Spinach, kale, celery, all super low calorie foods. And you can pick any green leaf or flower. They will all be low calorie since they'll be full of water and fiber. It'll create a feeling of fullness when you eat your meals. And it'll turn on satiety hormones like GLP-1. And this strategy reduces overeating and slows absorption of your glucose. Because when you front load whole foods and fiber, you're building a fiber wall to buffer the carbohydrates that you will eat later if you keep your food order. And when you choose whole foods that are red, yellow, and orange color, you're also going to be having access to number 14, beta-carotene rich foods. Beta-carotene, found in carrots, pumpkins, sweet potatoes, and leafy greens, are compounds that are strong antioxidants that also reduces weight. It helps to reduce oxidative stress that's associated with high blood sugar levels, and they have been proven to reduce visceral fat, the type of fat that keeps you insulin resistant. So when you turn to nature for solutions, you'll actually get a bargain because you'll get more than what you're paying for. When you eat food, you're eating multiple ingredients, not just one compound like lycopene. That's another powerful plant antioxidant found in tomatoes and watermelons and pink grapefruit. Lycopene supports vascular health and reduces inflammation to improve your glucose metabolism. And we all know this because people who eat lycopene-rich foods, like tomatoes, lose weight. And you're not going to be able to lose weight unless you're getting that insulin down. And a delicious way to eat tomatoes is to turn it into tomato soup. And of course, it'll taste even better if you use spices. That's number 15. Spices can help lower HbA1c numbers, especially ones that improve glucose metabolism, like cinnamon, turmeric, ginger, and cloves. They've been studied for their effects on blood sugar. Now, these compounds improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation. So adding spices to your meals is just an easy way to flavor those low-calorie fruits and vegetables, as well as your carbohydrates, to support your metabolic health without really adding any calories. In addition, they help to buffer the vasoconstrictive effects of inflammatory foods like, let's say, your hamburgers and hot dogs. And I'm sure you're eating them for protein. Well, how about number 16? Add some nuts. A good source of healthy fats, protein, and fiber. Meals that contain both fiber and protein, they digest more slowly. This slows down glucose absorption and stabilizes your blood sugar levels to reduce your HbA1c. Protein also stimulates hormones that promote satiety. And when meals contain whole foods that are naturally high in both fiber and protein, your glucose curves are smaller and more gradual. Number 17 is to stop eating 3 hours before your bedtime. At night, your melatonin rises. This is normal. It's a natural rise that causes you to be sleepy and more insulin resistant, which means the same amount of food eaten during the day will spike your blood sugars higher if eaten at night. Hence, your metabolism really slows down at night. And usually at night, you're not exercising or moving, so that also decreases how fast your blood sugars go down. And in fact, when you're sleeping, your muscles get paralyzed, which keeps your glucose in your blood. And number 18, when you do number 15, Then remember to do it with number 16. Eat within an 8 to 12 hour window. Time-restricted eating can improve insulin sensitivity, and limiting your meals to an 8 to 12 hour window gives the body time to rest its metabolism. Now, lower insulin levels during fasting periods will help improve your metabolic flexibility. By the way, how many hours do you sleep? Did you know that getting enough sleep also increases your insulin sensitivity? And likewise, not getting enough sleep makes you more insulin resistant. So number 19, sleep 7 hours or 8 hours. Sleep is critical to glucose regulation. Sleep deprivation increases your insulin resistance. It raises your cortisol level, which increases your sugars, and then increases your HbA1c. And you and I, we both have lots of days when we don't sleep. Have you noticed you're seeking more junky carbohydrate foods the next day? Consistency is the key, folks. 7 to 8 hours of sleep will support your metabolic health, helping you feel better, to make better choices, to have more energy to do the hard work that we all need to do. Unfortunately, there's just no other way to do it. And that is also true for your muscle. Number 20, build your muscle. Your muscles need to move. That's the only way to build muscles. Your muscles are your largest glucose-absorbing tissues that can fully lower your HbA1c within minutes. The more muscles you have, the more glucose your body can absorb in your muscles to store as glycogen. You can't grow more muscles, but you can make them bigger through resistance training, which improves your insulin sensitivity. Do movements at work, big muscle groups like squats, leg lifts, and knee highs. These can be your movements for 2 minutes after every meal, or you can even extend it to 10 minutes. And that's another reason why you got to focus on food quality to keep your muscles healthy. If you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.